aircrew arrived from everywhere. A handful of Australians who'd grown up on the beaches of New South Wales reported thin beer and thinner pickings among the local women. Fed on a rich diet of folklore about the Battle of Britain and the golden generation who'd chased the Luftwaffe across the skies of southern England, the newcomers discovered this was a very different kind of war. Flight Sergeant Billy Angell arrived from Bristol on the 4th of April 1943. In July, he'd be celebrating his 27th birthday, but no one he was to meet over the coming months believed for a moment that he was that old. His first day on the operational front line was sobering. He was to join an established crew flying an Avro Lancaster, call sign S Sugar. The wireless operator he was replacing had been hosed out of the aircraft on its return from a raid over Essen after he'd been torn apart by a chunk of shrapnel. The explosion had also peppered the thin metal skin of the Lanc, but the airframe and control surfaces were intact, along with 3 of the 4 engines, and S Sugar had limped back across the North Sea before being towed to a maintenance hangar for assessment and repair. By the time Billy reported to RAF Wickenby, work on S Sugar had only just begun. A spare half-hour at lunchtime took Flight Sergeant Angell to the maintenance hangar. Against the advice of a fitter working on the wrecked engine, Billy climbed the metal ladder propped against the fuselage and ducked inside. The gloom was pricked by daylight through dozens of shrapnel rents. Apprehension smelled of the kerosene the Irks used as a disinfectant, but something else, a metallic, slightly coppery smell, grew stronger as he struggled over the main spar and made his way forward towards the cockpit. The wireless op sat at a tiny desk on the left of the aircraft immediately above the bomb bay, facing forward. An observation window giving him a view out could be curtained to preserve night vision, and he could count on the nearby heating vents to keep him warm. All this Billy knew already. He'd been through the Lancaster finishing school only last month as his training came to an end. He felt at home at the heart of this enormous aircraft. He understood how to encode wind speed reports and send them back to base, how to log the half-hourly target updates from group, how to be the navigator's eyes and ears when it came to cross-checking a DR fix against faraway radio beacons. What was new was the coppery smell. It was blood, with a thin top dressing of something more visceral. Even a couple of days after his predecessor's war had come to an abrupt end, traces of the poor bastard still remained. Billy stared down at the desk, at the stains beneath the panel of dials and switches, shuddering to think what a closer inspection might reveal. 9 months of training had taught him a great deal about the importance of his role in taking the battle back to Germany, but never this. The father he'd never known had given his life in another war. Despite the questions he had asked, his mother had always refused to talk about it, and so he'd turned to books to find out what little he knew. His dad had served in the trenches. There'd been a huge attack, everything had gone wrong, and thousands of men had been killed. Billy was still looking down at the desk, still trying to imagine what it must have felt like. Would dying on the Somme have been preferable to this? Was it better, cleaner, to die at ground level with a bullet through your chest, rather than suffer the agonies of a lonely death at 20,000 feet? He shook his head and turned away. Down on the hangar floor, the fitter wanted to know whether he'd seen enough. S. Sugar was retired to a training role and never returned to active service. In her place, the crew were presented with a newly minted Lancaster, flown in from the production line near Oldham by diminutive auxiliary pilots called Daphne. S. Sugar's crew spoiled her with a cream tea in the sergeant's mess before her return to Lancashire, and Flight Sergeant Angell was sent to sweet-talk the cook into another plate of homemade scones. By now, with a handful of successful ops under his belt, Billy was beginning, however dimly, to understand the strange chemistry that kept these 6 men together. The pilot, or